Hello everybody, I've been playing Genshin Impact since last October. I'm currently AR 56, nearly 57, and I play almost every day. If you're here, you probably play it too, but if you don't play or haven't heard of it, it's an extremely popular game as of 2021. It's known for its blend of MMO-style grinding, Breath of the Wild inspired RPG gameplay alongside its extremely hard to win gacha system. There's plenty of analysis available about how predatory gacha games are in the first place, and tons of information about the way miHoYo has tackled gacha in particular, specifically with Genshin's awful rates. But it's not just the gacha banners alone that contribute to the game's overall predatory behaviors. In fact, the majority of Genshin's mechanics are embedded in monetary incentives, including the achievement system. I'm sure most of you here know that I am an achievement hunter myself, and I tend to post achievement videos pretty frequently. It's not just Genshin achievements that I enjoy, however. I tend to get involved in any sort of achievement system, and that's probably one of the main reasons I find Genshin's system to be so lacking. Achievements in any game are often reasonably challenging. Typically, achievements motivate players to approach the game from a different perspective, be that using an altered playstyle, defeating an overpowered version of a boss, or collecting and appreciating parts of the game that might otherwise go unnoticed. The accessibility of achievements varies on a spectrum from being inherently part of the game and being something that you have to go out of your way to achieve. Most achievement hunters and completionists favor the latter half, since it requires a deliberate choice to pursue and therefore feels more rewarding upon completion. Out-of-the-way achievements involve things you likely would not pursue or fully complete without the motivation of some type of reward. For RPGs, I'm referring to things like collecting all 900 Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild just to have Hetsu's poop sit in your inventory, or finding all 100 stray beads in Okami to use the String of Beads artifact in your second run-through of the game. These things are inherently part of the game, but fully completing them takes time, patience, and often even a bit of research to complete. You have to go out of the way to completely finish them. And as a result of your hard work, you're rewarded, usually with something of small but seemingly mighty value. Now, in Genshin, achievement hunters have two primary motivations. The first being the Primogem reward for each, which is always somewhere between 5 and 20 Primogems. This is a measly amount, but we'll get into that bit later. Let's first talk about why most people finish achievements. The cosmetic and social factor, which is the cards that are displayed on your public profile. In Genshin, every set of achievements, aside from Wonders of the World and Memories of the Heart, has an associated name card. These can be added as a background on your Genshin profile to display to your friends. Some of these are given as a result of Genshin achievement sets that remain a bit closer to the inherent exploration end of the spectrum we talked about earlier. These include cards like the Art of Adventure, which is given after a few cooking and crafting achievements are completed. However, there are a few name cards that stray towards the other end of the spectrum. For example, the Spiral Abyss card requires the player to complete levels of the Spiral Abyss without taking damage. The Elemental Specialist card requires grinding out elemental reactions in time frames so small that you might not otherwise execute them. I think these cards are great, and as an achievement hunter myself, I appreciate when I see people collecting them, since I know that a lot of time and effort went into getting them. So if I like them so much, what's the issue with the cards? Well, let's start by first talking about accessibility and the difficulty of achievements themselves. Genshin has a habit of making the game, and therefore the achievements, much more accessible. In terms of allowing the game to be enjoyed by larger audiences, I obviously think these improvements for ease of life are great, but these improvements tend to be motivated by miHoYo's attempt to push players towards newer content in the game. miHoYo intentionally does this because they don't particularly want older achievements to be the focus of people playing the game, specifically in the case of newer players. They make old content more accessible, including achievements, in order to promote newer content. Now, this isn't unheard of. Monster Hunter World did something similar by adding an easily crafted high-level set for new players to blast through old content and promote the release of Iceborne. So let's look at this specifically in the case of Genshin achievements. When I first started playing and grinding achievements as a result of a lack of content, I began keeping tabs on hard to grind achievements, like the 1000 chests in Liyue one. So when the chest compasses were added, I felt that a lot of that hard work went to waste. But achievements like the chest hunting ones, albeit time consuming if you grind them, still fall under that inherent exploration end of the achievement spectrum. Over time, you'll probably collect 1000 chests anyway, so making these easy achievements even easier to collect just adds quality of life to the natural format of the game. Making them more accessible is actually a welcome change, but more often than not, this makes harder to achieve achievements much easier to achieve achievements. For example, the card for Challenger Series 2 requires the player to kill an unusual hilichurl 50 times. This is a rare mob that I didn't even know about until I came across the achievement, and it only spawns once every 12 hours, and has to be hunted down each time it spawns in one of 16 locations. And as a result, the name card is pretty annoying to get, but pretty satisfying to collect. Genshin made this achievement more accessible by adding the Mimi Tomo event, which involved several days worth of unusual hilichurl battles that were directly navigable. No searching or spawn waiting was required. This typically hidden mob was highlighted during the event, which shaved down some of the card's rarity in the player base. Similarly, the Wrath of the Gods achievement requires players to get struck by lightning. Before 2.0, this achievement often required the player to teleport to particular areas and wait to get hit, or even hunt down thunderstorms and chase areas where lightning would strike. With areas like Mikage Furnace and Inazuma, getting struck by lightning is no longer a challenge. I've gotten struck a number of times while exploring and even while standing AFK, despite having spent a good chunk of time hunting down that achievement in the past. With achievements in particular, it takes away some of the satisfaction of the work that was put in order to collect those cards and see your achievements count climb. If the hard to get cards become easier to get cards, then the work spent in getting them is belittled. You can never feel fully satisfied. Adding the cards creates another dimension of grinding achievements aside from the Primogem reward, and this motivates us to keep hunting for new achievements and the newer, better cards. Ultimately, this leads to achievement hunters and card collectors valuing hard to get cards more. If achievements become more accessible with updates and new content, it puts achievement hunters in a never-ending loop of always pursuing what is considered to be hard to get or challenging at that point in time. And eventually, that hard work that's displayed on your public profile will be outweighed by less achievement-savvy players slowly catching up by nature of the game or by improved accessibility. MiHoYo always wants you to be incapable of completion. You're always going to have something to do. And this is reflected not only by these accessibility adjustments, but also by the nature of some of these achievements themselves. Actually, as an achievement hunter striving for completion and those neat cards to show on our profile, I can tell you that the hardest to get cards are actually the ones associated with RNG. So let's talk about it. In most cases in Genshin, there's a finite amount of grinding that you can do, and it's based off of time. Many achievements in the game, and thus name cards as well, are associated with the completion of randomly assigned commissions. Since commissions reset every day, if you don't get the commission that you need to complete an achievement, you have to wait a whole day before you can even test your chances again. There's no way to sit down and work for hours on end to unlock these cards. It's up to chance. And even worse, many of these achievements require the same commission, not once, but multiple times over. And sometimes they even have conditionals that are not specified. A lot of games have achievements associated with RNG. For example, in Terraria, the Rainbows and Unicorns achievement requires a mount that has a 3% drop rate. Some WoW achievements are similarly based on low drop rate items, like the Zandalari Library card, which requires the collection of a few books, each with a 5% or lower drop rate. The problem here is surprisingly not with the RNG. People who grind for achievements often do so with the mindset that they might have to put in several hours of work in order to finish. So killing hundreds of mobs of enemies over and over again actually isn't an issue. It can turn out to be incredibly rewarding. Genshin purposely chose to make their RNG cards even harder to access. Some of the time-gated achievements are absolutely absurd as well. In the Hero's Journey achievement set, the third tier of Bounty of the Earth requires 800 pulls from leyline blossoms. If you're free to play, you're likely waiting for your resin to regenerate at 1 every 8 minutes. Since every pull costs 20 resin, that means that every leyline blossom is locked behind 160 minutes, or roughly 2.5 hours. Multiply that by 800 and you'll see that a full 800 pulls requires 2,133 hours worth of resin, which is equivalent to pulling leylines exclusively every day, every time you have resin, for roughly 3 months. Oh, and did I mention that condensed resin pulls only count for 1? You have to pull them in increments of 20. Yeah. In fact, the only high-effort cards that you can really grind for are the friendship cards, which you'll collect passively with domains and commissions anyway. Grinding out a tiny bonus 150 companionship XP each day from logging in and logging out to respawn random events to contribute to only 0.5% of the total amount of companionship XP isn't always worth it, especially when you'll get the card without having to do that anyway. Ultimately, the RNG cards are impossible to grind for, and the grindable cards are pointless to grind for, as you'll likely get them over time anyway. Because cards like these are so obnoxious to intentionally pursue, they feel out of reach for people who want to work for them. But that's exactly the point. If they come with chance and waiting, there's no control or satisfaction in your final reception of them. Their meaning is simply belittled by their very nature. You're always left feeling like you need to move on to the next set of achievements. Now, remember how I mentioned the amount of Primogems you get from achievements? You get somewhere between 5 and 20 for each achievement. As of Inazuma 2.1, all 496 achievements in the game sum to about 4,070 Primogems, which is roughly 25 pulls. So those months worth of leylines and hours worth of friendship grinding contribute to less than 1/3 of the way to a 5-star pity. So the achievements aren't actually a good source of Primogems at all. They are simply including them as a way to cycle the user back to the gacha system. If you can't complete a card, at least you can collect a few primos, and the Primogem reward for achievements being so low is intentional. A friend of mine that studied psychology in undergraduate, hi Emmy, I love you so much, thank you for telling me about this, she told me that there's actually a name for this, and it's been researched and written about by a number of psychologists. It's referred to as the progress principle, or the endowed progress effect. It basically says that if you provide some form of artificial advancement towards a goal, the person will be more motivated to complete that goal. So by handing you tiny increments of Primogems, they're promoting you to not only continue the achievements themselves, but also to continue your pursuit of pulling from the banners via grinding or preferably your money. So the cycle begins with MiHoYo locking its character system behind money, which leads free-to-play players to find new ways of grinding Primogems and looking for new and exciting ways to enjoy the game, like achievements. They then limit your ability to play through that extra content by also locking it behind RNG time and money. If you choose to persevere through it, you're rewarded by receiving a link back to the very system you were trying to avoid in the first place. And because those Primogem rewards are so low, you're motivated to continue grinding for even more pointless time killers. They disguise this by making the secondary motivation for pursuing achievements, the name cards, which coincidentally, MiHoYo also locks behind RNG time and money. It prevents completionists from completing anything, especially when it comes to things like the Battle Pass exclusive cards and event-only cards, which are also conveniently locked behind money and time, respectively. Not to mention the character cards that can't be collected because you couldn't roll the associated character in the first place. So that's a lot to process, so let's condense that back down to the main point that I'm trying to make, which is why I dislike the achievements and name card system in Genshin Impact. It's catering to people like me who find the grind to be rewarding, especially when you get to show off a flashy new card on your profile. It's a system, much like with the gacha aspect in itself, that forces collectors and 100% enthusiasts to continuously feel empty. If a new card is added, it's a reason to keep playing the game for people who might have run out of content otherwise. And those new cards have more important value than the old ones because the old cards are often made more accessible or have become less rare as casual players collect them passively over time. Adding seemingly unattainable cards to the game enforces daily logins, daily grinding, and motivation to spend money when that becomes monotonous. This is the prime example of how a lot of Genshin's mechanics cause free-to-play players to feel in control of their experience when they're actually being influenced by the inherently money-hungry format of the game. As I mentioned before, this issue is just hard to avoid with a multi-genre game like Genshin. It needs to focus on profits via time gating and its gacha components while also maintaining a certain level of playability for a range of playstyles and platforms. This isn't all to hate on MiHoYo or Genshin, obviously I enjoy the game and play it a lot. I have a Diluc cosplay in the mail. I just wanted to express why this is a little upsetting to me. I hate that the achievements aspect, which typically would cater to, well, achievement hunters, doesn't maintain a much needed level of satisfaction. In the future, I'd like to see Genshin commit to a more consistent achievement style. Achievements with the perfect mix of accessible yet grindy, challenging yet simple, tend to be the most satisfying to me. Something with RNG is fine, as long as I can grind for it indefinitely. Something that I have to work incredibly hard to finish is rewarding, as long as it's possible to intentionally pursue. And something that is monotonous and annoying is worth it, as long as it maintains its value once you finish. But Genshin doesn't always include those as clauses when designing its achievements, and this all contributes to me not wanting to collect the cards at all anymore. I'd like to see a lot more achievements and cards available in the game in general. More things that are completely optional and cosmetic without the added motivation of Primogems at all. Maybe just additional options for profile customization. You could show off how far you've numerically passed an achievement's requirement, like your personal records on your profile, or even advertising a particular achievement itself for achievements that are not encompassed by the name card category. Like, I really want to put Jailhouse Fiesta on my profile, you know? Recolors of particular items, weapons, accessories, or even just the name cards themselves. Let us change the profile photo background, it's so ugly, what is that color? Would allow a certain amount of customization and reward without punishing people that don't pursue them or care about achievements at all for that matter. But at the end of the day, with Genshin being a mobile gacha, MiHoYo's intention is to keep its audience feeling included enough to play the game, and excluded to the point of spending money. So ultimately, I unfortunately doubt that the achievements and name cards in this game are ever going to reach a place that I would like to see. But being a card collector and achievement hunter myself, I can dream, and I certainly can make a really long video essay about how sad I am about it too. Anyway, this is a bit of a different video style, so hopefully you all enjoyed it if you're still here. I know it's really just me complaining, but I figure someone else might have wanted to articulate this themselves, and if that's the case, I hope that MiHoYo can see this so all of us achievement lovers can get well fed sometime soon. If you guys like this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell, it really helps my channel out, and as always, have a great day. Love you guys, bye.